At 2:58 p.m., I was adjusting the collar on my blazer, staring at my reflection in the hallway glass, half proud, half panicked, thinking, "Don't screw up your thank you speech, Mara." I'd rehearsed it a dozen times in my head all week. 10 years, 10 damn years of fixing fires I didn't start, smoothing over client tantrums, covering for junior execs who couldn't manage a spreadsheet without emotional collapse. This was supposed to be the moment it all clicked. VP of Enterprise Strategy. My name was on the short list. My team was ready. My numbers were bulletproof. Hell, even the CEO had clapped me on the shoulder in the break room last month and said, "It's about time, huh?" I nodded, smiled, swallowed my nerves like candy-coated poison. At 3:02, I stepped into Andrew's office. He didn't stand, just pointed at the chair across from him, still typing something on his screen like I wasn't even there. My gut tensed. I'd seen this show before, usually when they were about to let someone go. Then he looked up and smiled. Not a warm, congratulatory kind of smile. No. It was the kind of smile you see on a kid holding a magnifying glass over an anthill. "This won't take long," he said. That's when I knew something was off. He reached into a manila folder like he was about to hand me a trophy. Instead, he slid a piece of paper across the desk with one finger, like a man playing poker with a loaded hand. "Restructuring update," he said. I blinked. "Excuse me?" "After reviewing strategic priorities," he said with all the soul of a voicemail robot, "leadership has decided to cancel the current promotion pipeline for Q4, including yours." Silence. The kind that makes your skin vibrate like it's trying to escape your body. He didn't offer a reason, didn't offer condolences, just leaned back, fingers steepled like some smug televangelist in a $5 haircut, and said, "Not a good fit for leadership at this time." I looked at that paper. My name was there. Typed like a death certificate. No plan to reconsider, no path forward, just canceled. I felt something rupture behind my ribs. Not tears, not yet, but something harder. Something old. Like all the nights I stayed late fixing his messes. Like all the times I prepped his pitch decks so he could stumble through them and still get the credit. Like every goddamn time I made him look competent. And now here he was, cutting the cord like I was excess baggage. But I didn't cry. I didn't beg. I didn't ask why. I stood. I nodded. I walked out. No words. Just my heels echoing off polished concrete like gunshots down a firing line. That walk back to my office was the longest of my life. Not because of the stares or the whispers or the fake sympathy smiles, but because of the calm. I wasn't spiraling. I wasn't flailing. I was planning. Already. By the time I powered down my computer, I had my resume updated in my head. By the time I grabbed my backup drive, I'd remembered an old message from a competitor's recruiter still sitting unread in my inbox. And by the time I shut the door behind me for the last time, I wasn't mourning anything. I was ready to gut the empire I helped build with nothing but silence and a clause he forgot existed. Oh, and real quick before we keep going, 97% of people listen to these stories without subscribing or liking. If you're enjoying this unraveling disaster of corporate ego and quiet revenge, hit that like button and subscribe. It really helps the team keep digging up stories like this. Trust me, it gets better, or worse, depending on who you are. Back to it. The sun was still bright when I hit the sidewalk. Funny thing, getting dumped on a Friday. It doesn't hit the same when the air smells like bar patios and weekend freedom. I should have been crushed, should have been spiraling, but all I felt was clarity. They didn't promote me? Fine. I'd take the whole damn house with me, brick by brick, starting Monday. That night I didn't drink, didn't cry, didn't throw things or call my sister to vent like I did after my last breakup. I just sat at my kitchen table with my laptop open, still in the blazer I wore for the promotion I didn't get, and rewrote my entire damn career into 6 bullet points and a headline that said, "Enterprise Strategist, Client-Centered Growth Leader." The irony didn't escape me. The only thing that ever grew under Andrew's leadership was his credit card points off my travel budget. I had 3 missed calls from coworkers by 9 p.m. One from Claire, my coordinator who could juggle 5 accounts with 1 AirPod and a Starbucks straw. Another from Jacob, who'd followed me through 2 company switches and once spent a weekend reworking an entire onboarding system with me over takeout and sheer spite. I didn't answer. Not yet. Instead, I opened an email I'd left unread for 4 months. Subject line, "Quick chat? Future VP opportunity, fully confidential." It was from a competitor I'd always respected. Preston and Vale, Sleek, ruthless, good retention. I'd turned them down before, said I wasn't ready to jump. Truth was, I thought loyalty still counted for something. I replied with 2 words. Still interested? I got a meeting booked within 20 minutes. Saturday morning, 10 a.m. sharp, at a boutique hotel lounge that smelled like cinnamon and conquest. They didn't waste time. No slick pitches, no ego games, just a firm handshake from the director of strategy and a plain manila folder. VP of Enterprise Accounts, full autonomy, team building budget, territory discretion, 38% bump in base salary. I asked one question, can I bring my people? He didn't even blink. You bring the loyalty, we'll pay for the flight. I signed before the coffee got cold, not because I needed revenge, not because I wanted to gloat, because they saw me as the thing I already was, the damn point guard, the closer, the one client stayed for. I walked out without posting a single thing. No cryptic quotes, no LinkedIn humble brags, just texted Claire and Jacob. Lunch tomorrow? We met at our usual spot. Middle booth at Lenny's, where the fries come out too salty and the waitress doesn't ask questions. I didn't rant, didn't unload, I just looked at them both, calm as you please, and said, I start Monday. Claire blinked. Jacob leaned back like he'd been waiting for that line since last quarter. They didn't ask where, didn't need to. They knew me. They knew how quiet I get when I'm dangerous. They nodded. Claire tapped her ring against her water glass like a toast. And just like that, I had the start of something bigger than a title. I had motion. I had momentum. And Andrew? He had no damn clue he'd just cut the wrong wire. Monday morning, I stepped into my new office and didn't recognize the woman in the glass. Confident, rested, dangerous. The receptionist offered me a fresh brewed coffee like I was royalty, not a refugee from corporate betrayal. No welcome banner, no pep talk, just quiet efficiency and a badge with VP Enterprise Strategy printed in clean font across the middle. God, I'd forgotten what it felt like to walk into a place where they didn't question your seat at the table. My office, mine, was small but sharp. Matte black fixtures, a view of the skyline, a whiteboard already prepped with notes on the accounts I'd inherit, and the ones they hoped I'd steal. No one said it outright. They didn't need to. This was war, and I was hired as a scalpel. I sat down, sipped the coffee, and opened my laptop. At 9:17 a.m., my inbox pinged. A short subject line from Claire. Sent. I opened the attachment, her resignation letter, clean, polite, no fireworks. 4 minutes later, Jacobs came in. Same format, no drama. Just two professionals exiting stage left, right on cue. Back at the old place, HR must have choked on their morning yogurt. Two enterprise coordinators gone before noon, both top performing, both deeply embedded in renewal season, both suddenly unavailable for status calls. I could picture the panic already bubbling under Andrew's cheap cologne, but he wouldn't admit it, not yet. He'd spin it. Coincidence, he'd say. Opportunity. Maybe even blame me to his peers, call it poaching if he got desperate. But I hadn't made a single ask. Not one email, not one suggestion, just a lunch, just a truth. I'm moving on. You do what you feel is right. They felt. They moved. I didn't need to sell them on loyalty. They'd already watched me eat every bullet Andrew dodged for a decade. They knew the bones of that place were hollow. They just needed a crack to slip through. By 10:42, a Slack message pinged on my new dashboard. My direct reports introducing themselves, timelines, open issues where I could slot in. No ego, no resistance, just readiness. Like they'd been waiting for someone who'd actually listen. I smiled, muted my phone, and got to work. Meanwhile, across town, the dominoes were starting to tilt. A project timeline slipped. An exec flagged a delay on the Danner renewal. One client asked, "Is Mara still our contact?" A question that hit like a ghost walking through their firewall. I didn't reply. Not my lane anymore. I didn't check LinkedIn either. Didn't need to. The silence was already loud enough. Andrew, I knew, would wait at least a day before connecting the dots. Maybe he'd call Jacob, maybe Claire, try to spin some strategic transition garbage. But the thing about exoduses, they don't start with shouting. They start with footsteps. Quiet, determined footsteps. And I just heard the first two. Let him think it's coincidence. I had bigger things to do, like building something stronger with people who knew exactly why they left. By Wednesday of that same week, the whisper chain was already humming like a hornet nest. You could almost hear it through the walls if you listened close enough. Questions disguised as compliments, concern wrapped in curiosity. Hey, just checking. Who's our point of contact on the Belfort rollout now? I heard Mara took some time off. Is that true? Can someone confirm who's owning the Q1 strategy deck now? These weren't innocent questions. They were smoke signals, and I knew exactly where they were coming from. Enterprise clients don't like disruption. They like consistency, voice, rhythm. They like when someone like me can answer their questions before they even finish asking. And when that voice vanishes without a memo, they notice. Fast. By Thursday, I'd gotten a ping from an old coworker who never gossips unless it's bleeding out in real time. She sent one line. Brennan's already panicking. He told the Danner client you were just taking some time to upskill. Upskill. That man really thought he could stuff a body-shaped hole in enterprise strategy with a Canva subscription and a podcast. Meanwhile, over at Preston and Vale, I was settling into my rhythm like I'd never left the cockpit. My new team worked like pros. Smart, lean, no hand-holding. We were onboarding 2 mid-sized tech clients and prepping a pitch for a defense sector account that could eat up half a quarter's quota in one swing. The momentum felt surgical, clean. But back at the old place, it was unraveling. By Monday of week 2, I got word that 6 more had left. 3 were junior strategists I'd mentored personally. 2 had worked closely on the Danner and Cross accounts, complex beasts with long implementation timelines and legacy quirks I'd practically carved into stone with my bare hands. The 6th was someone I didn't even know well, just a quiet PM from finance who, apparently, wasn't willing to risk being part of a crumbling org chart. Claire texted me the news with a screenshot of the resignation count in HR's internal dashboard. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. And then it happened. A name pinged my inbox at 4:26 p.m. Subject: Danner renewal, quick clarification, from sydney.m@dannertech.com to mara.keller@prestonvale.com. The message was short, almost clinical. Hi Mara, hope this finds you well. We're reviewing renewal documents and noticed some inconsistencies in the assigned contacts. Just confirming, are you no longer associated with Vensar Group? If that's the case, please advise who should handle the upcoming review. I read it twice, then a third time. She hadn't said it, but the meaning was clear as daylight. We signed because of you, and if you're not there, this whole thing is up in the air. I didn't reply. Instead, I forwarded the email directly to our legal team. No commentary, no explanation. Just the subject line intact, time-stamped, with the whole thread untouched. Our legal counsel, a woman named Dana who once dissolved a multi-million-dollar breach case with a 3-line memo, wrote back 15 minutes later, "We'll review their original writer." Thanks for the heads up, Mara. I closed my laptop. Took a breath. Let it settle. That's the thing about trust. Once it leaves the building, it doesn't reapply. Andrew could throw all the bodies he wanted at that fire, but I was the extinguisher. And now I was just watching the smoke build, one whisper at a time. By day 12, the panic was finally loud enough to echo. You didn't need access to their inboxes or meeting notes to feel it. It was in the flurry of half-written LinkedIn posts. It was in the silence from accounts that used to brag about every quarterly win. It was in the desperate tone of recruiters cold emailing my old team with "just checking in" subject lines. Because the exits weren't just ripples anymore. They were currents. I got the first confirmation over lunch. Dana slid a folder across the table at the cafe down the block from our office, barely looking up from her espresso. "They're bleeding," she said. We confirmed stalled movement on 2 of the big renewals, Danner and Cross. They're playing dumb and blaming transition delays. Translation: they don't know who the hell's in charge of the contracts now. And the clients aren't stupid. Danner was already sending escalation emails up the chain asking why their dedicated contact, me, wasn't on the project roadmap or any of the Q1 briefings. Cross? They'd frozen their legal review mid-cycle, 7 figures each, 2 contracts that used to auto-renew like clockwork. Now, dead air. The reason was simple. I wasn't there. But instead of facing it, Andrew was scrambling. I heard through the grapevine, one of those anonymous tips that show up in Signal or Slack messages from burner accounts, that he'd called an all-hands emergency meeting. Said they were navigating a short-term leadership recalibration. You'd think they were realigning satellites, not losing accounts by the week. He asked for loyalty. asked the teams to stay the course, offered a pizza lunch and reassurances about internal promotions coming soon. They always dangle promotions when they're fresh out of trust. One of the tech leads forwarded me a photo of the whiteboard from that meeting. It had my name in a bullet point under Departures Impact Review. No malice, just a cold fact surrounded by red marker and arrows pointing toward retention metrics that had started to nosedive. I didn't reply. Across town, I sat at my new desk, finalizing a pitch deck for a client 10 times more forward-thinking than anyone Andrew ever bothered to understand. My new team moved with focus. No hand-holding, no politics, just performance. But part of me kept watching. Quietly. Methodically, like you'd watch a candle flicker after tipping gasoline on the carpet. I knew what was next. The clause. Buried deep in the Danner and Cross contracts, language I had personally negotiated during their rocky onboarding years. A clause that didn't just recommend a key contact for continuity, it required it. My name, in ink, binding. Without me, those contracts weren't just shaky, they were void. But I didn't push, didn't whisper, didn't gloat. Let the wind knock them down. I had just pulled the pins. They thought they were managing a little turnover. They didn't realize they were hemorrhaging trust. And you can't plug that with pizza. The clause had lived in those contracts for years, tucked away in the depths of the terms like a loaded gun behind glass. Key contact continuity, it read. Legal speak for, if you remove her, we remove our money. It wasn't a power play when I wrote it, it was protection. Danner and Cross both came on board during absolute chaos. Their previous vendors had left them scorched, overpromising, under-delivering, rotating account managers every quarter like it was a game of corporate roulette. When I stepped in, they were 2 inches from walking. I calmed them, rebuilt from the rubble, answered emails at midnight, took calls from airports. One time I had to fix a deployment issue over FaceTime in a Holiday Inn bathroom while a wedding DJ blasted Uptown Funk through the drywall. So when we negotiated renewals, I made the ask, quietly. I'd like to include a continuity clause, I told their legal teams, just to keep things stable. They didn't even blink. Makes sense. Add it. My name, Mara J. Keller, landed right there in black and white, beneath the section header nobody else ever bothered to read. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't even bolded. Just a writer. All renewal authorizations and service continuance to be maintained under primary contact, Mara J. Keller. Involuntary disassociation shall nullify agreement unless otherwise renegotiated in writing with client. Translation: if I was out, the deal was too. And now, over chicken salad at my desk on a Wednesday, our legal counsel Dana was holding that clause like she'd just found a live grenade in a file folder. They're screwed, she said flatly, flipping the page. They didn't even try to renegotiate. They submitted the renewal packet with someone else's signature, some junior exec who barely knows the product line. I took the printout, reread it like I was reading a eulogy, and nodded. Want to send a formal reply? She asked. I didn't speak. I just clicked forward on the client's escalation email, attached the original PDF with the continuity clause, and sent it back to Danner's head of procurement with zero commentary. No signature block, no snark, just the file. 20 minutes later, I got a 1-line reply. Understood. We'll be terminating per clause. Thanks for the clarity. I stared at the words for a while. No celebration, no fist pump, just the sound of a fuse hitting its end. Cross came next. Almost identical. They'd submitted their renewal through a project manager who, last I checked, still thought QA was a personality type. Clause was the same. Violation was the same. Outcome was inevitable. Within hours, the ripple hit the old office. I knew because a former colleague texted me one line. Did you really just nuke 48 Melon from orbit with a PDF? No reply. I didn't have to swing a bat. I wrote the rulebook. I signed the clause. They pulled me out and didn't check what was wired to the foundation. That's the thing about contracts. They're boring, right up until the moment they're not. The email landed in Andrew's inbox at 6:17 a.m. Subject line: urgent, renewal termination notice. Danner Tech Cross. It was the kind of message that makes grown executives go pale before coffee. Inside, no fluff, just the facts. Both clients were invoking their contractual rights under Clause 7D, citing involuntary disassociation of the named key contact. Translation? You pulled the wrong lever, genius. And now your 2 biggest enterprise deals are evaporating. By 7:45, the CEO was looped in. Alan Dorsey, gray suit, gray soul, the kind of man who built his reputation on clean slides and louder voices in investor meetings, was calling legal from his summer house, where he'd apparently just finished a sunrise Peloton ride and was about to get smacked with $48 million in preventable loss. They pulled together a legal war room call by 8:30. HR, legal, CFO, Andrew, and Alan. I wasn't there, obviously, but I didn't have to be. I had eyes everywhere. People still loyal, not to the company, but to the truth. One of them was sitting in that meeting, muted on Zoom, texting me word for word as the meltdown unfolded. Alan's voice, already tight. So explain to me how two of our largest accounts are walking without even negotiating. Legal, trying to soften the blow. They're citing the key contact continuity clause, sir, specifically Section 7D. He paused. Who wrote that clause? Client-side counsel included it at Mara Keller's request during last cycle. Alan's voice dropped half an octave. And we signed that? Andrew tried to jump in. It was standard. No, it wasn't. Legal cut in. Standard clauses don't void $48 million in business overnight. That's when the CFO spoke. Real quiet, like he was trying not to set off an alarm that had already detonated. That's $48 million gone. Silence. Then Alan asked the one question I'd been waiting to hear since the moment Andrew slid that promotion-killing memo across the table. Who authorized her removal? Andrew cleared his throat. It was a team decision. You are the team, Alan said, voice flat as stone, and you just burned a decade's worth of client trust without reading the fine print. Another pause. Bring her back, Andrew blurted. That's when legal coughed and added, We tried. She's already VP at Preston and Vale. They have her locked. Cue the shake. My contact on the call said Alan's hand was visibly trembling as he tapped a pen against the desk, staring at the contract PDF like it had personally betrayed him. He didn't raise his voice, didn't scream, but his next words came out through clenched teeth. You built the house on her name and then pulled her name off the deed. He ended the call before the legal team could start their damage control script. As for me, I was on a quiet morning walk, sipping coffee with oat milk and reviewing a proposal for a new six-figure client who said they'd heard I was the one who keeps enterprise from collapsing. I didn't smile. Not exactly. It wasn't joy I felt, not even triumph. It was closure. They built their castle on my name, my labor, my trust. And when they decided I wasn't good enough to lead it, they detonated the foundation themselves. I just walked away. They're the ones who forgot the clause. By the time the third call came in from Andrew's number, my phone had already rerouted it to voicemail without even buzzing. He left messages, dozens over the course of 3 days, each more frantic than the last. Mara, we need to talk. Just give me 5 minutes. Hey, listen, I think there's been some misunderstanding. Can we clear the air? I know we had our differences, but this isn't how we fix things. Be the bigger person. That last one almost made me laugh. Be the bigger person? I was the bigger person for 10 years. Bigger than his ego, his indecision, his insecurities. I padded his stats, protected his image, picked up the glass every time he broke something, and blamed the floor. I didn't need 5 minutes with him. I needed distance. And I finally had it. By Thursday, HR emailed. Polite, but desperate. We'd like to schedule a professional discussion regarding your recent departure and the implications of the key contact clauses associated with prior contracts. We believe an open dialogue could be mutually beneficial. Mutually beneficial. I forwarded the message to my new assistant, Justine, and gave her one line to use. Nothing more, nothing less. Please refer all inquiries to legal. That was it. That was the whole reply. Sent from a new domain with a new title under my name. VP Enterprise Strategy, Preston and Vale. I didn't hear back. No apology, no acknowledgement, no, we were wrong. Just static. The kind that settles over a field after the last bomb drops and there's no one left to shoot at. And while they were scrambling, I was building. My team, my real team, was thriving. Claire had onboarded 2 new associates, already training them on our workflow automation process like she'd written it herself. Jacob led his first pitch without me even in the room and closed a mid-tier client in under 30 minutes. I sat back, watched the playback, and realized something I hadn't felt in years. Pride that didn't come with a side of dread. No politics, no sabotage, no fear that someone upstairs would undercut us for clout. We had momentum, real momentum. Our onboarding metrics were the fastest in the region. We were hitting client satisfaction numbers that most firms only dreamt about during performance reviews. And the culture, you could feel it in the hallway. Respect without fear, ambition without blood sport. Justine brought in cupcakes Friday afternoon, and everyone stopped work to share them. At my old place, that would have been considered a productivity issue. Here, it was a team moment. I stood in the doorway, watching them laugh, Claire tossing sprinkles at Jacob, one of the new analysts drawing an emoji face on a whiteboard. And for a moment, I felt something sharp loosen inside me. The thing I'd been holding on to since that Friday at 3 o'clock p.m. Andrew didn't need to hear me gloat. The contracts already spoke for me. So did the clients. So did the silence that followed every ignored voicemail and bounced calendar invite. This wasn't revenge. This was a rebalancing. And I wasn't going back. The boardroom was glass-walled and sterile, the kind of room meant to look powerful but couldn't mask the smell of sweat when real money was on the line. They'd gathered in crisis mode. Coffee gone cold, sleeves rolled up, jackets off. One chair was conspicuously empty, Andrew's. The lead counsel read the clause again, slowly this time, as if syllables might magically undo millions. Key contact, Mara J. Keller, Clause 7D, contract void upon involuntary disassociation. Silence. No coughing, no tapping pens, not even a nervous throat clear. Just the weight of 7 little words snapping the spine of the company they thought was untouchable. Clause 7D didn't care about intent, didn't care about politics, budget cuts, performance reviews. It cared about names, and my name had been ripped from both contracts by the same man who said I wasn't a good fit for leadership. Alan, the CEO, finally broke the quiet. He turned to legal, voice flat as a dead heart monitor. We've lost Danner and Cross? Counsel nodded once. Both have invoked termination clauses. No room for arbitration. Their lawyers already cited precedent. The CFO dropped his pen. That's $132 million in annual recurring revenue. Alan didn't react, just looked at the empty chair. Then he stood, walked to the window like he needed the skyline to help him breathe, and muttered, "Get him in here." Andrew was summoned. He entered 5 minutes later, stiff-necked and already sweaty. Alan didn't raise his voice. You canceled her promotion. You forced her out. Andrew tried the usual. There were strategic considerations. She was becoming too central, too client-dependent. We needed flexibility in the org chart. Alan turned around. You just gave up our strongest accounts for flexibility. Andrew's mouth moved like he had more to say, but nothing came out. You're done, Alan said. Effective immediately. Security was already waiting outside. He didn't argue. What could he say? The paper was already signed. The bridge already ash. While they were rearranging deck chairs on the sinking ship, I was finishing a quarterly forecast review across town. Our new enterprise numbers were blowing past projections. Claire had just confirmed our Danner onboarding would wrap 3 weeks ahead of schedule. Jacob was fielding interest from 2 cross-project leads asking if we had capacity. At 4:03 p.m., my phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. A text. You win. No name. But I knew. I stared at it for a second, then typed exactly what needed saying. I didn't play. You removed your queen on purpose, and that was it. No parades, no dramatic monologue, just a clean board, a new team, and a future no longer built on asking permission. Some people chase power with titles and corner offices. Me? I wrote my name into the walls of the company. They tore me out like I was replaceable. Turns out, some names are load-bearing.